And Mark, let's move on into the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And with this preview, I want to get right into it. I want to start with the offense in this one because not only Jameis Winston now year 2 with himself and Dirk Cotter last year being the head coach for the first year. They did that so he could work with Jameis Winston now moving into year numero dos under their kind of duo together. However, this offseason, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers went out and got some big weapons for Jameis Winston to throw to. I blanked on his name for a second, but they go out in free agency. I know they had Mevins there, but they bring in Deshaun Jackson to be the 2 to Mevins 1. And then in the draft, they go out in the first round and they get O.J. Howard, the tight end from Alabama. With those 2 moves alone, is this kind of Tampa Bay saying, you know what, we're going all in with Jameis Winston to make a playoff push in 2017?
Well, I think they have to be. Yeah, I mean, when you go out and get Deshaun Jackson, you go out and get O.J. Howard, you're just getting more weapons. I mean, Mike Evans was and has been very impressive lately. And what I always think of is fantasy football. He's kind of that guy who you're not necessarily going to talk about a ton before the draft, but he's that guy that everyone's hoping to get.
Yeah.
And now with O.J. Howard being a great weapon, we all remember Gronkowski and we all remember Jimmy Graham and, wanting to be the team that has that big, unstoppable tight end. That's kind of what O.J. Howard is expected to be. And, of course, let's not forget about Doug Martin. Doug Martin, which should be able to, he should be able to kind of carry his share of the load because, yes.
However, the big thing is, and what I'm hearing from Matthew Berry is I saw a thing on ESPN where it's not even for sure that the muscle hamster and Doug Martin is going to be the starter for the Bucs this year.
I don't know. I kind of still am expecting that he would be. I don't know. What are they expecting? Jaquiz?
Or Charles Sims?
Yeah, I guess Charles Sims could be. I still like Doug Martin, though. I still like Doug Martin quite a bit and what he can do. I just think that it's a running back by committee situation most likely, but these guys will have this fairly average running game. But when you get this help, when you make this passing game going to be even better, then all of a sudden this run game is going to get a lot less pressure on them, should make everything a more efficient and more effective just offense in general. When you couple that with the fact that they're a fairly average to a slightly above average defense, you are looking at a playoff team. You're looking at a team that can go out there and win games. And my big thing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year was that, and this upset some people, some Buccaneers fans, I said that they gave up more points than they scored. And that's not good. You're not going to get to the playoffs when you're doing that. And yeah, sure, it was by a point. But, you got to change that around. So this offensive addition, getting Justin Evans, the safety in the second round, they're obviously trying to do what they can to make it better. And I think that they did a lot, to work with that. And getting a guy like Chris Godwin out there, who's a wide receiver, is nothing huge, nothing crazy. You're not going to go buy his jersey. But at least it's something improving upon what they need to. What they said was, we need more weapons, and we got to make the defense better as well. And that's what they tried to do in the offseason. Well,
and the one thing, honestly, the only reason why, and this will be a joke, Buccaneer fans, don't jump all over me for this, but want to know why the Buccaneers won't make the playoffs this year?
Why is that?
Who's still on the team? Defensively, who is still on this team?
My boy, Chris Conte.
Chris Conte.
I love Chris Conte.
Like the cancer. Like
he's there.
He can't. If he's on your team, like it's. I keep thinking back to that Bears-Packers game where it's like, what? Oh, Jordy Nelson's in the end zone. Huh.
Whoops.
I didn't know I had to cover a guy, guys.
That was my guy?
That was my faux pas. My bad, guys.
Chris Conte, that's a real talent out there.
But, hopefully he's not. There's no injuries and he doesn't become your starter out there.
Hopefully he does.
But, the good thing for this Bucs team in all seriousness is their main departures. Mike Glennon, not that big of a departure. You got Jameis Winston.
As long as he's,
or as you like to call him, the
Famous Jameis?
No, not Mike Glennon.
Oh, Mike Glennon. Ginger Giraffe?
Yeah, Ginger Giraffe or the
I thought we
red
were talking
giraffe.
about Jameis Winston.
No,
I don't have a nickname
no.
for Jameis.
Mike Glennon, the Ginger Giraffe.
Although I will say this, though. Jameis Winston will get injured this year.
Oh, you think so?
Ryan Fitzpatrick's on the team.
Oh, okay.
He's not even gonna make it to week
Magic.
one. Fitzmagic will work his voodoo, and he will be starting week one.
But like,
bound to happen.
Like seriously though, they only lose like defensively. You lose you lose Bradley McDougal and then Akeem Spence, and those are your only losses on defense. To me, not the biggest losses, not the ones that you can't overcome. And I still look at this defense. By the way, if you're listening to the full podcast, Vernon Hargreaves, that's the name I couldn't remember. The only reason I remembered it now, because I knew he was on Tampa Bay, and he's staring me right in the face. You still get Vernon Hargreaves. You still got Brent Grimes. You still have guys like Robert Ayers, Jared McCoy, William Golson, who you re-signed this offseason. You still have guys on this defense that can do some work. You go out there and get the offensive weapons that you need to go out there and do work. And I think that this is the make it or break it season for the Buccaneers. Because you think of last year, think back to that year, they were almost a playoff team. Yeah. Like coming into, I still remember December 18th, watching that game against Dallas, hoping, praying, sitting on the edge of my couch, hoping that the Buccaneers would beat the Cowboys.
Seat.
My seat.
To make the analogy, the phrase.
I was watching it on my couch, sitting on the edge of my couch, but I was hoping that they would beat the Cowboys in that game.
Because you're a Cowboys hater.
And I was a Cowboy hater last year. Plus, I really don't like the Cowboys because of who they employ on their team. They kind of find the worst people to employ, but that's besides the point. I thought that it was going to be win that game, sky's the limit, then you're bringing momentum into the Saints game, bing, bam, boom. You could be a playoff team. We talked about that. We talked about the Bucs being a playoff team at the end, or could they make a playoff run? They lose by 6, and they lose because of Jameis Winston was the sole factor, and his decision making was the factor of why they lost that game. Cowboys didn't do anything special to beat them, and that's why this year so important for not just the Bucs, but this will be a very important year for Jameis Winston, because if he plays well, this team could be a playoff team. Right now in my preliminary draft, I have them at 7-9. That's maybe a little low. Games I could flip: the Dolphins, the Bills, and then even let's say I flip a game where they beat the Saints or they beat the Panthers, because right now I got them kind of splitting the entire division. They could be a 10-win team and a playoff team.
Which I have them at about 10 wins personally. But, I think that the thing I kind of look to with Jameis Winston, he was 28-18 last year, touchdowns to interceptions. I would love to see those interceptions go down, but I understand Jameis Winston, he's kind of a gunslinger. He's going to make that happen. So at the very least, get the touchdowns up then. But getting these better weapons out there, it's only going to bring down the interceptions, right? Because he's going to have more reliable targets. Although the flip side, someone might want to say, is these gunslingers, when you give them weapons, they say, all right, then I'm going to throw it in there.
No, you gave me weapons. I'm going to
use them. But I think the big thing for Tampa Bay is just that so much of this team was average when you really look down at the stats. Defense was a little below average when you look at most stats, but overall fairly average. The passing game's a little bit above average, nothing too incredible. Running game, a little tiny bit below average, but not by much. And then, the amount of points they score is exactly average. So you look at the team and you just start to think they need to get something going. Why did we necessarily expect them to get into the playoffs? Because they had the momentum going. But you look at the stats, you look at them just on paper, and you're like, okay, well, it's just an average team, so it's not surprising that they miss. With a guy, with getting Deshaun Jackson, with getting O.J. Howard, this offense is immediately improved. I don't necessarily know that the defense is immediately improved, but they definitely, they took their shots to try and make it a little bit better. So I don't know. I have them as a 10-6 team right now. I do believe in them. I like Mike Smith as the defensive coordinator. I like Jameis Winston as a quarterback. I liked him coming out of college, even a little bit more than I liked Mariota. This created many debates in this room.
I am still the Mariota guy. You are the Winston guy.
I kind of look at it and I'm like, okay, if things go right and they continue down this progression, then sure, they get in. But if they stay as this average team who gives up more points than they score, if they can't score more touchdowns, if Jameis can't bring down the interceptions, then obviously they're not going to go. I mean, that's kind of what it comes down to. When you talk about Jameis Winston going into the sophomore year, he for sure needs to improve as a quarterback. And he's a 4,000-yard thrower. I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback, but he needs to bring down the interceptions. He needs to get more touchdowns. He's got the weapons to do it. He just needs to keep that head on right. And keep the brain going and don't make those dumb decisions. Just because you got Deshaun Jackson and he's a good wide receiver doesn't mean you need to throw it into triple coverage.
No, and that's exactly it. Like the two things that I think this offense needs, Jameis needs to make smart decisions. Can't make those bonehead plays where you're sitting there, it's like, bam, you see the quarterback like hit the helmet.
As soon as you let it go, you're like, I shouldn't have done that.
Or like when you see this, which is like the international sign for my bad, when you just see them grab the head like this. The other thing, no matter who it is, Sims, Jaquiz, Muscle Hamster, they need a bigger presence on the ground. They need a way bigger presence. Like, you can't have a running back, your leading running back, have 560 yards and only 2 touchdowns. You just can't have it. And I know that you're going to say, well, Jameis Winston's a gunslinger and this is a passing offense. You have to have a solid run game to complement Winston and the passing attack.
Plus, I mean, that works when you have the best. Well, I was going to say that works when you have the best passing game, but this was just an average passing attack.
Yeah, you have to have a run game to complement it. Also, and I mean, looking at the schedule, like I mentioned, I have them right now 7-9. That could change when we get to our prediction podcast at August 21st that week when we do it. However, I kind of see this team as 7-9 at the worst, 10-6 at the best. And to me, the games that it comes down to, there are 3 in my mind. The Dolphins to start the season, the Bills week 7, and then the Panthers and the Saints. You got to win one of them. Because right now, I have this team the same as they were last year. Perfect 500 in the division. You split with every team. You're the only team out of the 3 other than Atlanta that I can say with confidence that you will take one from the Falcons like you did last year to start the season. Now, some people may say that was them kind of getting the better of the Falcons before we even knew anything about anybody coming into this year, but I just feel like if you can steal that one game to make you one game above 500 in the division, and then get that Bill game, get that Dolphin game, I could see 10 wins from this season.
I mean, I don't think this schedule is all that difficult when you compare it to some of the other ones in this division. I mean, you get the Giants at home. That's a huge win right there.
I still got the Giants winning that game.
I mean, I think surely the Giants can, but getting to play them at home is a lot better than going to New York to play the Giants because that's a damn good team.
Yeah.
You even get to play the Patriots at home, so it's a tough battle. It's going to be
a Thursday night game, too.
It is. Very much a uphill battle to win that game. But if anyone's going to upset the Patriots, it's going to be, someone that gets to play them at home. So that one, the Bills is your, is one of those away games that you can get that one for sure. I think they can pretty much split the division. So they certainly should have the ability to go 10-6. Well, I think they should be able to do it.
And another strong thing is like you end the season last year, your last 4 games were home, away, home. This year, you have a potential for a lot stronger of the end of the year because from week 14 on, home, away, home. You have 3 of your last 4 games are at home, with your last game being at home again.
Yep. And one of those games, the week 16 game at home at Carolina, who...
That one's on the road. That's the road game.
Yeah, that's what I meant. That's the only away game for you. is
Very
going to
winnable
Carolina. Yeah, I mean, you can win that one because Carolina wasn't, that great this year. I'm a little down on them this year until we see what happens.
A little down or a lot of down?
No, I wouldn't say I'm a lot down on them, the claw up Panthers. I'm always clawing up.
You're a lot of down on that defense.
Yeah, I'm a lot of down on the defense because, I don't know, and maybe I should be more down on this, Tampa Bay defense if I don't come across as very down on them. I don't know. I just think that this team overall was very average last year. And I think the only real big improvements they made was giving, I almost said Deshaun Watson, Jameis Winston some weapons.
They did it. They got him weapons. You get him
really,
O.J. Howard, you
to
get
me,
him
that's
Deshaun
really
Jackson.
the only improvement that they made. So how big of an improvement is that going to be?
Well, and a lot of it, and this will be the last thing that I say about the Buccaneers, a lot of this season is going to be on Jameis Winston. It's going to be on your decision. Like, buck up or shut up, basically, this season, because we've seen you now, this is his third year in the league. He had his first year with Lovey. Then they get rid of Lovey to let him work with Coach Cotter, and now it's like, you know what? Buck up or shut up. Like, if you're going to make the same mental mistakes, then, like, if that happens this year, then we have the conversation next year of, like, is Jameis Winston the guy? Like, is this meant to be for the Buccaneers, or is this going to be a failed project already?
Well, I don't think we'll be having that conversation. I mean, he puts up 4,000 yards a season. He certainly is improving in touchdowns. Unfortunately, he's getting worse in interceptions. But the touchdown improvement is better than the interception decline. So I don't think we're going to have that discussion.
Or let me put it this way: can the Bucs be a playoff team with Jameis Winston at the helm? That's a conversation we might have if the mistakes keep happening and they don't challenge.
I don't know. I don't think that Jameis is really what the issue is necessarily. I mean, the interception, sure, but you understand he's a gunslinging quarterback. The biggest issue to me is
the run game. To me,
the run game doesn't perform as it should, but the defense needs to get better too. If you start to improve that defense, and you should, Mike Smith is your defensive coordinator. You should be able to have a good defense out there. You start to get that good, and then, okay, some of these mistakes can get covered. Gunslinger quarterbacks are going to be best when they have a good defense.
And that's kind of what this year, I think that defense will be better. I think that at the end of the year, we're going to look at Winston, we're going to look at the run game. Those are the two spotlights that we're going to put on this team. But we're going to flip the conversation onto you guys. Bucs fans, let us know what you think about your team, about your defense, about Jameis Winston, about the run game. Is this team a playoff team? Because this is the first one kind of from this division that we have kind of been able to say, hey, you know what, this is a team that if you go 10-6, like I said, if I flip this team to 10-6 on my computer with all of everything that went on in my league, they're a playoff team. So it's possible to get to the playoffs if you get to that 10-win mark. Let us know what you guys think down below in the comment section.